Last season was pretty tough because obviously COVID conditions, the school became shut down and we weren't exactly entirely sure how nesting season would play out. At first, we were kind of thinking maybe nesting season wouldn't happen, which was kind of sad because then all these turtles would just suddenly be lost. But eventually, Miss Reina thought it was the best decision to send just a small group of us out and allow us to protect the nests.
So we managed to figure out a way to stay safe with COVID while still going through the process of protecting the nests that the female turtles were laying. So we frequently went out in small teams, groups of 2 or 3, trying to stay socially distanced and sanitizing and being safe while still taking care of these nests.
The last season, our proceedings were pretty similar to other previous seasons when it came to protecting the nest. We'd go out at night. We'd meet up, just a small group of us. We'd gather our things, our waders, and our radios. Then we'd go out and track out where the females were, see if they're in water, or if they're on land. If they're on land, we'd try to find them and get sight of them. Maybe we'd hear them, and then we'd have there'd be a possibility that they'd nest that night. So then we'd watch over them closely. And then if they were nesting, then we'd stay with them for a while, and then let them do the whole process take place for them to lay their eggs and to bury their eggs. And then we'd take a cage eventually and put it over the eggs to protect them. Take the female and bring her back to the shed to process, do some quick measurements and weighing, just to see how she's doing, before eventually releasing her back into the wild and then calling it a night. We ended up saving around 9 nests and 77 hatchlings, which is pretty comparable to our previous seasons, so it turned out to be a great success.
The other thing that we would just like to say is that we had been doing so much research about the turtles, and we had been working on more behind the scenes data stuff during the entire winter. And it was something that we were really looking forward to, was that when we were juniors in high school and we were going out and we were starting the process of processing turtles and working with them outside, we didn't know a lot of information, but throughout the year, we obviously had to get more comfortable with everything surrounding Blanding's turtles. So just the background research, the data that we had been looking at from 20 years that was accumulated. So we were also really excited to go back out and do the actual field work with the turtles. So when COVID hit, it wasn't something that we were like, oh, how are we going to make this work? It was like, we have to make this work because it was something that we wanted to do. And it was something that we were really looking forward to. And just working with the species and trying to see how you could increase the population. And that's what you're working for a whole year, which there are other people, obviously, like Mrs. Pregnell, who had been working for that for 20 years. So it may seem like an insignificant number of just letting one season go by, but it was something that we were really, really passionate about, and we didn't want to let that happen. So we were willing to do whatever it took, social distancing, wearing masks, even though it was hot and you would get really sweaty and you would get bugs all over you. It was uncomfortable to do it without all of the COVID procedures, but it was something that we were absolutely willing to do. And it's something that we're willing to do again in 2021. So whatever means we have to follow in order to make sure that we protect and keep this species going, we want to implement.
All right, good. Hello, everybody. My name is Maribel Pregnell. I'm going to take my mask off. We're filming at a very big distance here, and we're out at Arlington High School, which is a well-established Blanding's turtle territory, one of the most researched sites for Blanding's turtles in the world. We have a unique population here, and one of our jobs, along with all the high school students that come out to help, is to protect the nests, and I'm standing on a nesting ground. So that way is the wetlands, and I'm going to take you down to the wetlands in just a little while and show you down there. But this is the nesting ground. So the turtles come walking up here, and our turtles are nocturnal, so they come out at night, so it's really dark. And one of them, her name was Ellen. We have names for all of them. Ellen came and nested right here. And you can actually see the footprint of where she nested. We used this cage to protect her nest from predators. The predators that basically eat the eggs like candy are opossums and raccoons and skunks, and they just dig up the nest really, really quickly. So we have to be here. Sometimes we even have to like throw a rock at them and try to scare them off from eating the eggs as they come out of the female. But the female will dig down about 6 to 8 inches or so. And this nesting cage, it has a very pokey little wire on it, which is one reason why one of my students designed these new cages. So we're in the midst of innovation here. Matt designed this cage last year, and we successfully used it on 3 nests, and they did deter predators. You can see some of the eggshells. Her nest we protected, and then her babies hatched out. They hatch out approximately 90 days later. So here's one of the shells from one of the hatchlings. And they dig their way out. We check the cages every day for babies, and this one has an opening, and we can take the babies out and bring them down to the wetland and make it a little bit of a kind of leg up and a journey down so that they don't get eaten by predators right away. So these are called predator guards, or nesting cages we call them, but I think the technical term is predator guard. And both of these work. We typically bury them down about 6 inches or so to deter anything from getting at them. And sometimes we even line rocks all around them too to prevent predators. We have seen predators kind of get at them and try to dismantle the cages, but they haven't successfully stolen any of our babies yet. And we've been doing this protection for quite some time now, since 1996 out here. So, all right, well, that's about the biggest story of nesting, and I'll bring you to another adventure in our next segment. All right, well, here we are again out in another nesting area for our Blandings turtles. They basically come out of the wetlands, and they are trapped by this fence here. So you can see the big long fence. They try to get out to the open sunshine where they can have their nest, and the nest can incubate for 90 days or so in the sun. But they hit this fence, and that's obviously to prevent them from getting out to the softball fields, baseball fields, and football fields and whatnot that we have here at the high school. One of the things that we do to monitor what goes on in this nesting ground is we set up on these fence posts right here cameras. Some of our cameras are obvious, like this one, that are kind of pointed towards the nesting ground, and some of our cameras we hide. We want to get hidden images, hopefully nobody tampering with the nest, but most of the images that we're interested in are predators that are trying to go after the nests. Raccoons, skunks, even deer have been known to poke at nests before. We also monitor other predators out here, like bear and bobcats and coyotes and all kinds of interesting wildlife out here at the high school. And of course, predators are much more numerous here than they used to be because there are no top level predators to control what we call these mesopredators, skunks in particular, and raccoons and opossums. Without having the big wolves and the mountain lions anymore, those populations of the mesopredators are much higher than they used to be. So we try to monitor them with our predator cameras that we have up and down the entire fence line. The fence line runs for 1.55 miles, so it's a lot of territory for us to cover. All right, so we're out here in the wetlands again, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about tracking. You might be able to hear that beep. That means that we have a turtle that has a transmitter on her. We only put transmitters on our females since transmitters are expensive. They run around $150 to $250 each. So we put them on our females because of course the objective is to be able to track her and protect her nest. And right out here we have a young female. Her name is Kyra, and she was named after one of our turtle trackers. And I can hear her. And basically we use radio telemetry, just sort of like you would if you remember back to 8th grade. If you were in 8th grade and took earth science in New York State, you learned how to get the epicenter of an earthquake. It's very much the same way. We get 3 positions through triangulation and we pinpoint where the turtle is. I can get one kind of line on Kyra right now. She is somewhere along this line straight ahead. Now she could be anywhere like a mile straight ahead or less, but there is something on the radio called the gain button, and I can use that gain to judge the distance of approximately where she is. And then I would walk over to another location and get another reading on her, and then a third location and try to triangulate that turtle or that epicenter of where the 3 lines meet. And that's the basic gist of radio telemetry. It's an old technology that works really well for these turtles that spend the bulk of their life in the water. These are pretty much purely aquatic turtles, except that the turtle that we just saw, which you should be seeing that video clip of, and Gio is holding him right now, he was coming out to bask in the sun. This time of year they're coming out of their dormant period, where they spend a lot of time into the mud during the winter and sort of hibernating in the sediments, like out there in the middle of this wetland. And that's the gist of radio telemetry. I am going to try and listen for a couple more turtles that I have here. If I can find them. So you kind of go along on these channels and you can find all the turtles that you have programmed in. All right, let's see. Yep, so this is a turtle called Matt. Yep, good. So now we know at least the transmitter is still on this turtle, and we know that it's out there. It's one of our juvenile turtles that we released to these wetlands last fall. So that's the gist of radio telemetry.
So on our walk from one location to our next filming location, we actually just passed a Blandings turtle here that was sunning himself on with the sun, you know, trying to keep warm because they're ectothermic or cold-blooded. So basically, this guy is a male, one of our bigger males, as you can see. So you can actually look and see the plastron here. Basically, the amount of black and white, black and yellow on the plastron will change. So basically it's like a human fingerprint. So we can identify each turtle based on their markings, kind of like a zebra or a human fingerprint. You can see here, if you zoom in, you can see some lines. These are called annuli, and we're able to count them to figure out how old the turtle is. So this one is a little bit worn though. So this one's a really old turtle. So really exciting. We use a system called notch codes. So we look and we see these little chips in the plastron that we put in to be able to figure out. So on the edges over here, there's 12 of them on each side on a typical turtle. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So R10 we would say, because we put a chip there. And L1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. R10, L9 would be the notch code of this turtle. So yeah, really, really exciting to come across a Blandings turtle. Hello. So we are back with the turtle that we had picked up from over there. We have since identified this turtle as Goliath, tag number 857. So that's really awesome. Goliath here is the biggest male and the biggest turtle in our population, actually, so that's pretty crazy. We're going to take some measurements on Goliath today. So we're going to weigh Goliath. We're going to make sure he is zeroed. All right, and here we go. So we're going to measure 1,873 grams.
Okay, good.
So now we are going to figure out how long this turtle's plastron is. So the plastron is the upper shell, while the carapace is the lower shell.
And look and show how the carapace is curved like
So
that.
the carapace is curved. The carapace is curved in males, but more flat in females.
So this is obviously a male.
Very curved.
Very curved plastron, which is, maybe I could show from this angle. Yes, you can see kind of that indentation, concave.
There we go.
All right.
So now we are going to measure this turtle, and we're going to figure out how long its carapace is. So, right there. So, 23 centimeters and 7.
Yeah. Yep.
So 237 millimeters.
Perfect.
That's
Yep.
how long this turtle is.
And so we, in science, always use the metric system. So always millimeters and centimeters. And that instrument is called a vernier caliper. It's a very big one. We have littler ones for the babies, but this is a big one for this big guy.
So, I just want to talk about the importance of us wearing gloves to be able to touch and handle our turtles here. So, as we well know, some diseases can jump from animals to humans. The only disease that we know from, I believe that we know right now, between turtles and humans is salmonella. That's a pretty nasty thing, and we don't want to get salmonella, so we wear gloves and we use hand sanitizer in between. And even more important is the fact that if we have a diseased turtle and we're handling multiple turtles at a time, because we, caught a lot of turtles in the wetland to be able to process that day, it's very important to wear different gloves in between each turtle as to not transfer diseases between individual turtles too. So if there is one that's sick, then we have no idea. So
This is a good opportunity to see his beautiful natural smile. Ooh, and you just saw him blink. That's his nictitating membrane that can go over their eye to protect them. But I always say they have a beautiful natural smile. Right. All right. And what else? What other information do we get on this processing sheet we call this?
So we get, we know, this is for our data keeping. So we know what date that we caught this turtle. We know whether it was a male or a female. We know what tag number it has. We're actually gonna change this tag. We're gonna take it off, clean it, and put it on again because it's a little hard to read. We know where we found this turtle, the exact GPS coordinates, to be able to send that to the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, the NYSDEC, or DEC for short. We know how many marginal scoots. So we have marginal scoots along the side. There's 12 of them on your typical turtle. This guy has 12 on both sides. We have our plural scoots on the sides, and we have our
vertebral
suits. There you go. Sorry, your vertebral suits, because this is where the turtle's spine is.
The vertebra. Yep.
There you go. And then we also write on this. We're going to take a look at this plastron in a minute and see that there's a big mark there. There's a big scar. There's a big scar here. We have a little scar there. So we write down and notice and put down on here its scar, every turtle scars, to be able to not only better identify it, but if we see, so if we see that there's a, if he acquires a new scar in the future, so it's good to help keep up on the health of the turtle. Do you want to talk about the brown marks?
Yep, that's a little bit of tannins from maybe all the leaves and decaying matter when he's hibernating or going down into the mud during the winter months. And also you can just make out what we call the annuli on these things that are called the scoots.
These annuli are a bit like tree rings. So every year, this is how we can help tell the age of the turtle. This one's, the annuli aren't very helpful after about age 20, because that's when they start growing slower, and so it gets all really bunched up in there. And this turtle's really old. We estimate over 40 years old. And so basically, there's just supposed to be lines here, but it's too worn. This turtle's been a bunch of places and it's worn down over time. So we can't figure out just by looking at it how old this turtle is. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. Is there anything else you want to touch on?
Nope, that's the most of the information we get. We also have things like it's radio if we have a transmitter on it, which we typically don't put transmitters on males because we're mostly interested in tracking the females to protect their nests. We also write down where we release them, which we always try to release them exactly where we found them. And then sometimes we'll write down what their behavior was. This guy today was out basking in this beautiful sunshine on this really early April day. It's kind of about the beginning of the season when you start to see turtles out and about. But yeah, this is sort of our processing of every turtle we see, and we write down all that very important information to monitor their health.
All right, here we are back exactly where we had found the turtle. We had replaced his tag number, as you can see, and so it's much more legible. We're gonna release Goliath, biggest turtle in the population, right back where we found him. We found him basking right here. So we're gonna let him go. I can get a better shot of him getting into the water if you want. He's gonna go into the water.
Oh, let's see what he does.
Well, let's won't.
You're back home.
Back where we were just a few hours ago.
And this wetland that he's about to go into is called Wetland B. This is one of our mitigation wetlands. You wouldn't know it, it looks pretty natural. This was one that was built in 1997-98 when we built the addition to the high school. And it has been a very successful, obviously well-used mitigation wetland. And there he goes. Take it easy, Goliath.
All right, we were just walking back to the shed. We just found another turtle sitting right here, just basking, sunning themselves. Must be a really, really nice day out today. This one is
Female for sure.
Eileen.
Oh, wow.
That's why I didn't hear her radio before.
Wow. Yeah.
We are missing a leg. Three-legged turtle, Eileen. Drill R11. Here we are.
Woohoo! All right, Eileen.
95. Beautiful.
This is great. All right, well, Eileen's coming off to the shed. Up to the shed to get processed. All right.
Eileen is one of our turtles that we protect her nest because she's a really good nester. Although she only has 3 legs, she takes her time and she gets the job done. It really shows how perseverant these turtles are. See, 3 legs.
Hi, Eileen. Haven't seen you for a while.
Yeah, haven't seen you in 2 years. 2019 was the last time we saw her.
Wow, fantastic.
Beautiful. So this is part of the radio that we use to track them. It's supposed to be an antenna that extends out. But
you can see her drill there. She's an older member of the population.
Much older.
So we'll verify when we get back who this is.
But it's very likely to be Eileen.
Very cool.
All right. So we're back with Eileen quite a few hours later. Quite a busy day. And we have put on a new radio. So this is what the radio is supposed to look like. So we got a new radio all set up for Eileen. Beautiful turtle here. We're back exactly where we were.
Missing her back leg.
Just
a little stump. Maybe a predator got her, but she's still a very valuable member of our society and usually lays a nest every season with some difficulty because they do dig their nests with their back legs.
So it takes a little bit longer for her, but she's very perseverant and she will get the nest done. Yep. So we're going to release
her right here, and this is where she was, out basking in the beautiful sunshine today. All right, Eileen, have a good night. Hope to see you when you're nesting. Awesome. Here she goes.
Okay, so this is how we trap our turtles. This is called a 3-ring hoop net trap. So basically what we do is we put a stake in the ground here where we anchor this string. And then there's a hole, I'm going to twist this around so you can see. There's a hole big enough for the turtles to go into.
That's called the funnel.
Right. But in the water, the water level comes to about here. So most of the trap is underwater, but there's still area in the trap for if the turtles need to come up for air, they can still breathe and everything. So this collapses when it's in the water, so they can go in but not out. So in here we have a can that we fill with sardines, which attracts the turtles, which gives us the ability to, they're like, ooh, what's that food? And they come in here and they get stuck. And so, you know, take one hook to the trap, pick it up and see if we have a turtle. And if we do, we just grab the turtle. And we change the bait in there every so often. You know, we add some more bait every day, and about every week we completely change out the bait because it gets really nasty. And that's really about it. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, well, we're supposed to check the traps by law every 24 hours, so we can't leave them for too long. And when we set them up, like Gio said, we make sure that there's enough airspace. And if there's a big storm, we pull them out of the water so they don't get tangled and risk hurting any wildlife. And we usually trap just for about 4 or 5 weeks every year to try to get transmitters onto our female turtles. That's the main objective, but also to check the health of all of our turtles as well. So yeah, so that's an adult hoop trap, and now Gio's going to show you one that's a juvenile trap.
So we don't use these as often, but we're thinking about using them this year. Basically, they're a lot smaller, as you can see, and these are a little special. So you can set them up, and then you can have turtles come in from this side. You put the bait in here, and turtles that can come in from this side. So this is a really good area for a really good way to, you know, have multiple directions for the turtles to come in. But it's basically the exact same thing as the adult trap, you know. And then you can get in the zipper here and pick up any juveniles that you catch.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
So that's a little bit about trapping, and then perhaps later in the season we can show you some of the traps when they're deployed out in the wetland. All right, great.
All right.